Well, I'm here with Adele Parks, the author of the novel The Image of You, which was made into a movie that comes out May 10th. I guess I'll just start with that. You've written 25 books in 25 years, which is, first of all, that's a feat in and of itself. And this is the first adaptation into a movie. Yes?
Yeah, it's I love it that you're saying 25, very nearly 23. I have also done a novella and an anthology, so I can see why you got to
That
25.
those
But
count.
yeah,
Count them
close
all.
enough. But yeah, 23 actual novels in 23 years. And I've been really super lucky. They've all been bestsellers. They've all been on the Sunday Times top 10 list, which is the equivalent to the New York Times for us guys. So amazing, really exciting. But I've also been a mum. My son is also 23 years. So there was only so much time in the day. And this book, The Image of You, was written when he was published when he was 17. And around that time, I met a producer who said to me, come on then, tell me about your books. And I wasn't really expecting to pitch. So I pitched one of my books. I kind of told him about it. He went, tell me another one. I thought, oh, that landed badly. So I told him another one. And then he went, uh-huh. And another one. And I thought, goodness, what's he looking for? So I kind of gave him in the end four pictures. And at the end of the conversation, he said, yeah, I love those. I'll have all four. And it took me by such surprise that I was like, okay. And my kid was about to go to college. My, whole world was changing. It just seemed like the right time of my life to try this other really scary thing. After being successful in one field, it is actually very scary to dabble and then try and then hopefully become successful in another field because you're exposed. So, but it seemed like the right time to take that risk.
Well, I believe it's Chris Sivertson is credited as the screenwriter in this who adapted your book. What's that been like? And well, first of all, has there been any talk previously about you adapting it, or was there any interest on your part? And then on top of that, what's it like kind of seeing like I wrote this novel, it's exactly how I want it, and now I get to see how these people kind of interpret that.
Yeah, I didn't want to write it. Chris is brilliant. He is, he has written a lot of screenplays. Before I became a novelist, I had read hundreds, probably thousands of books. Before I read The Image of You screenplay, I think I'd read about five screenplays. I was no way qualified to write this myself. So I was thrilled to be introduced to Chris, and he is one of the most lovely human beings you could possibly imagine. He very open. We had a lot of conversations. We moved things from the book quite quickly. I mean, we immediately changed location. It just because he's American, I I just couldn't see how he was going to write it in a convincing English tone and get the areas right, etc. So I immediately said, well, we'll have to set it in America. And you could tell he was thinking, ooh, phew, and so it was very collaborative from the beginning. We talked about what would work from the book, translate onto screen, and what wouldn't translate from the book onto screen. And therefore, there is a gap. What are we going to do? What else can, how will we move that story on if they can't, because a lot of it's in the head in the book and it can't be in the head in the film. So we worked together really well. The collaboration worked beautifully. He wrote a fantastic script. I remember receiving it and literally getting shivers. Which considering I knew the end, I think that's pretty good. And so he was a joy. But I had always maintained that if you sell the rights to your book, it's a little like selling your house. If somebody is going to redecorate, you cannot complain because you sold your house. So if you have chosen to trust this new team of people to take your creative work and do what they will with their creative expertise, you have to trust that process. And there are so many people involved in making a film, which obviously everybody in the movie industry understands. Not everybody in the publishing industry understands because, we don't work in the same way. So I remember the first day turning up on set and having this huge lump in my throat. I think I actually almost cried at seeing the scale. You know, obviously everybody knows there's a director, there's talent, but there's also camera, sound, costumes, set design, props. Every single one of those people have a vision and have a part. And it does become this huge collaborative sort of orchestra. But I enjoyed that. I thought it was a totally different process to writing, but I've written a lot of books, as you said. So it was exciting to see something different happen creatively.
Is there anything like without getting into spoilers, is there anything in the book that's like I understand we can't put this in the movie, but I really like this part and I wish we could have somehow managed to get this in the movie. And then on the other end of it, is there anything that was in the movie that wasn't in the book that's like, oh man, I wish I thought of that like as I was writing the book?
Well, there's a funny story that almost answers that question, that kind of bit hand in glove with that. I mentioned that I pitched these ideas. I didn't quite pitch the book of the image of you the way it is written, because the book of the image of you is written where it starts off as you think it's a romance, you think it's a story about a girl meeting a guy and she's going to fall in love with him and they met online. And then there's, quite a dark twist. So far, so good. And that translates absolutely into the movie. In the book, there is a different ending to the ending we agreed upon in the movie. But interestingly, the ending we agreed on in the movie is much darker. It's definitely quite obviously a psychological thriller, where the book manages to straddle and balance a little bit more between this romance and this thriller angle. Now, when I was pitching to MPCA in the first place, I absolutely knew, even though I'm, not at all au fait with the movie world, I did know enough to know there was no point saying, oh, I have this book and it's kind of two genres. That wouldn't help anyone. So I firmly said, oh, it's a psychological thriller and it really ends with a bang. And actually, when you read the book, you go, well, they both end with a bang, but they are different bangs. And to me, that absolutely just shows that both art forms have a really different place in our entertainment world. When you're reading, it's a very intimate process. You maybe have 19, 20 hours to read the book. It's, it's just between you and the word on the page or the voice on the audio, whatever it might be. And you can dwell, you can reread a paragraph, you can go backwards and forwards. That's not how movies work. You need it to be punchy. You need it to move the audience, keep the audience engaged. You don't want people kind of leaving their sofa and going for a comfort break and never coming back. So I absolutely knew that they had to be differences. So the ending is very different. I'm very happy with that. I know I will have readers say, oh, the ending's different. I'll be like, yeah, it is. It's the right thing for this communal experience compared to this private experience. There were things that had to go. There were things that had to go because of budget constraints. There were things that had to go for time constraints. There were things that had to go because they're creatively just overdwelling. But I can't even remember them now. I remember we had to discuss that and I had a book and I remember doing lines through the book, kind of going, we could lose that, we could lose that. But I'm not afraid of editing. I edit quite heavily even when I write. So it kind of felt just like another editing process. There are some scenes that I'm so glad made it. There's a wedding dress scene that always meant the world to me, and it's still in the film. And I love that. And I love everything that happens there. So there are certain things that are still in there that are great.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm currently listening to the Audible version. And the woman reading that, each chapter kind of revolves around a different person, and her accent changes as she's narrating each part. Is that and kind of there's certain Britishisms in certain chapters and Americanisms in other ones. And yeah, I
Yes.
just really like how your mind kind of went back and forth and how she kind of translated that to the Audible version.
Yeah, she did a really good job. I mean, it's interesting because the twins were were brought up in the States, but they end up in the UK for when the book's set. So it wasn't such a leap to kind of then set the book in the movie in America. Not for me. I didn't feel it was such a leap. But I think it was quite a challenge on the Audible that they had to kind of slip between all these other things, but well done her that she did. And I like that. I mean, this whole movie is about the duality, and I think Sasha did such an incredible job of playing two characters that are very, very different, Anna and Zoe. It's not a case of, oh, you change your clothes. She had to change the way she stands, the way she smiles, the way she speaks. Everything about those two women is different. Their approach to life is very different. And the director Jeff had to kind of coach that out, and so there's a lot going on there. So yeah, I feel because of the way the book was structured to have multiple viewpoints, it kind of it gave space to the actors to find those different personalities, and Sasha in particular, who had to be two personalities.
Well, so this is coming out May 10th. Is there any plans on adapting any more of your books? And please say yes.
Yes. Oh, what a lovely thing to say. Thank you. Eric, yes, good news. Right now, there is another book being filmed right now. But it is again with Jeff, the same director, and again with Chris. We just thought this is quite a nice collaboration. We work well together. If it ain't broke, why fix it? So that's happening. So this time next year, I hope we'll be having another conversation, and I hope that'll be the first of many.
Oh, sweet. I'm definitely down for that. I guess we'll end with we have a what's in the box segment. And in the box we have a bunch of movies, and each week we'll pull a movie out and watch it for the following movie. And these are movies that we have people put into the box, and these are movies that are either deeply personal to you or a movie that's like, that one's really good and no one ever talks about it. I wish more people would talk about it. What's a movie you would like to put in the box? And since you're an author, we don't usually put books into the box, but maybe this can be a rare exception.
Okay. Well, I think my movie that might go into the box would be Kimi, which is a Steven Soderbergh
Oh,
movie. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't come under any of those. I think people already are talking about it. I don't think I'm the first person to talk about that movie, but I just watched it recently and I loved it. And I thought, how did I miss that when that first came round? So I would pop that in the box. And book wise, there is a book that's coming out called All the Colors of Darkness, and by a guy called Chris Whitaker. It's not out yet, but it's not in the UK. It might be in the States. But that's coming out in the UK this summer, and I've just read it, and it's beautiful. It's a book about, would you believe, a serial killer and a child abduction. So how I can say it's beautiful, but it's also about a huge romance, and it's an epic, and every single word on the 630 pages are stunning. I think it will become my Desert Island disc book, because 630 pages, it would keep me going.
nice. And I guess one last thing. I'm about halfway done with the image of you. Of your bibliography, what do I go to next? Like what's a good next jump? Because I'm really loving your voice and I need more of it.
Oh, thank you. Go to One Last Secret. Yeah, One Last Secret is about an escort, and she is doing her final job because she realizes it's a pretty dangerous industry to be in, and nothing turns out to be as it seems in that final job. And she is one of my favorite heroines that I've ever written. She actually battled me the entire way. She surprised me all the time. She kept talking in my head. Every time I was trying to write her, she resisted me, which is just the kind of character she is. So yeah, One Last Secret.
All right. Well, thank you, Adele. And I wish you continued success, and check out the image of you on May 10th, or check out the book now because it's really good so far.
Thank you so much, Eric. Absolute joy to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise.